Hello and welcome to another StarCraft 2 co-op video. Today we'll be looking at another post from a Chinese forum about the upcoming mutation. The time to test your luck has come. The difficulty is more on the hard side. Here there's a chart about the times when the mutators are refreshed and when the trains spawn. So if you haven't seen this, you can check out my shorts. The good news is that OE is a defense map. Most of the time you can stay in the safe zones. The threat of environmental mutators goes down. The bad news is there are more bad aspects. If you roll Just Die or Diffusion, they will greatly test your DPS output capabilities. If a train is on the track and you roll Speed Freaks, that train will also get 5.5 speed. Another unfortunate thing is that, in addition to the fact that the 2nd and 6th trains are close to the time a new mutator rolls in, the second double trains is only 30 seconds away from the next mutator roll. If you roll Speed Freaks on the second double trains, you should pretty much get ready for the next game. If you roll double-edged, you can't attack slowly like usual. You have to hurry and take out the trains without letting double-edged kill you. In the end, this will filter out more commanders. 4. Polarity requires both players to be able to take out an entire train. 5. Since you pretty much cannot full clear on OE, props combined with anything, the traditional way of dying in Wheel of Misfortune will be more likely to appear. 6. If the enemy is Terran, beware of mutator combos. Beware of the nukes from Polarity Ghosts, Evasive Maneuver Ghosts, and Just Die Diffusion Barrier Ghosts. Since it's Chaos Studios, if possible, play as a duel. This week is pure theory crafting, as always. In a duel, I recommend one commander with sufficient DPS, one that can take out Just Die or Diffusion trains. The other one should be good at dealing with double-edged trains. However, the only commander that is better at being mutator resistant than dealing with double-edged is just Lone Wolf, right? Manx P3. So Manx P3. Proficient Manx players can rely on Contaminated Strike to stop attack waves. Even if there's polarity, the difficulty will be greatly reduced. P1 Contaminated Strike can also increase the damage to the trains. You have no choice but to rely on bunkers if you get double-edged. With P3, you can consider leaving a nuke, a mushroom nuke, to deal with the double trains. Using ESOs is a bit slower. Lone Wolf. His advantage is that he is resistant to many mutators. If there's double-edged, Sam can throw his grenades and activate the super cloak to avoid double-edged. Odin also isn't affected by double-edged. To avoid various surprises from the trains, I recommend buying the super cloak and grenade damage gears as soon as possible. High EQ P2. I don't know why this is called high EQ, but okay. The 3 pack leaders can survive many mutators. They are immune to double-edged and diffusion. Impalers can also deal with trains from the high ground. It's just that because of their low HP, they have to hurry up and run away when a nuke gets close. Creeper hosts can deal with attack waves and double-edged easily, but they don't deal enough damage to trains. Primal hosts are better at dealing with double-edged trains, but beware of transmutation and props. They're also not very desirable for attacking trains when there are environmental mutators. Stedman P2. P2 can pretty much clear any attack wave with 2 E-Gorbs unless there's double-edged or evasive maneuvers. Lings and Brutelings can deal with double-edged, but these two can't really deal with air. His weakness is props. As such, spread Stellalites on high ground or places where props can't reach. Don't spread Stellalites too far out. Carax. P3 is pretty mutator resistant. Get Fire Lance earlier to help with damaging trains. P1 deals more damage. It can take out Diffusion and Just Die trains. Towers on the high ground are also pretty mutator resistant. Zagara P3. Put biolaunchers on high ground. Hero unit or other units lure enemies to a spot and then biolaunchers smash them. If you roll going nuclear, then you just have to accept your lost biolaunchers. If you roll double-edged or props, Baneling Scourge will work well. Lings can also attack double-edged trains. Nova P1. Airstrike can clear attack waves despite many mutators. Liberators deal so much damage to ground that they'll take out trains instantly. With their long range, they can also stay on high ground to attack the trains. After you get enough Liberators, consider adding some large vultures, tanks. You can use their cannons to attack double-edged trains or use mines to defend against props. Too bad mines lure ghosts. The ghost nuke AI is hidden in an Excel or exe file, and this part, I don't know what this means. Something about if you can't see it, they can still nuke you or something like that. Abathur. He can be considered the best choice against double-edged in the mid to late game. Toxic nests are also good against props if they don't have polarity. The problem is that if you roll environmental mutators, toxic nest luring becomes difficult, so you have to rely on your ally to get past the early to mid game. The week after is Blizzard and Magnificent on Dead of Night. Honestly speaking, Chaos Studios, whoever does this will get overwhelmed. Raynor. Tank Viking Vulture, use P2, attack trains quickly. If you get double-edged and just die at the same time, just quit. Kerrigan. Although she is afraid of double-edged, she's more mutator resistant than Raynor. If you have good luck, you can beat this with just mass mutas. If you get just die, make some lurkers and lings. Lurkers have AoE, lings shred their armor. Artanis. Gamble with mass dragoons. If you get speed freaks props, just surrender. Swan, the usual, towers and tanks. Just don't get unfavorable mutators. Zagara. Her units are disposable after all. She's not afraid of double-edged at all. Technically speaking, she's more afraid of polarity trains. Carax. If you get environmental mutators, you can't make towers. I suggest making a few towers at the ramp to stop trickles, and then using the rest of your resources to get carriers and sentinels so you can F2A. Nova. Just don't get double-edged. Even if you get speed props, you have ways to deal with them. Abathur. Even when dealing with different mutators, I will use the same Warpgate goons, which are the locusts from the hosts. Borazun. Invis army plus Black Hole has unimaginable power. Of course, you still have to avoid the mutators that you should avoid. I'm talking about you, double-edged. Han Horner. To some extent, Han Horner can actually be considered a stronger version of Raynor. However, Han's units and Horner's fleet are both afraid of environmental mutators. You must be extra careful. Don't let one nuke or lava burst destroy your entire army. Stukov. P3 is good against double-edged, self-destruction, and other mutators that disrupt your army's DPS. P1 is good against props, just die, and other mutators that require you to deal extra damage. Alarak. If there's no double-edged, do whatever you want. If you get double-edged, you're screwed. After all, Chaos Studios is a random combination of 3 mutators. Nobody knows whether or not they'll get double-edged, just die, etc. Tychus. P0 and P2 both have their pros and cons. However, it's not easy to lose with Tychus. Dahaka. Creeper hosts clear escorts, impalers attack the trains. If your ally is Swan, you can try F2A with Muta Guardian. Phoenix. Aside from the usual weakness to double-edged, you also have to be careful of environmental mutators killing your cheerleading squad. For average players, I don't recommend using Phoenix for this mutation. Mix. You'll be fine as long as you don't get both double-edged and environmental mutators at the same time. ESOs and a sea of bunkers. One of them must be usable. In addition to the above, as long as your ESOs aren't disrupted, you will definitely win. Toxic gas makes the escorts lose intelligence. Stetman. Superb numbers, superb mechanisms. What else can it withstand? Amon says, wow, a pro, everyone, let's run, referring to Green Zone Hardened Shield links. Zeratul. P2 cannons also have the numbers. Unfortunately, they're too expensive to make and aren't good for getting past the early game. They also take minerals away from enforcers and abrogators. Your freedom in unit composition is weakened a lot. However, this doesn't mean Zeratul isn't mutator resistant, it just means things are a bit more difficult. Okay, this one. Kerrigan and Stetman's Brewlords can deal with double-edged trains. Vorazun can use a more passive approach with her DTs. Only use Shadow Fury to deal damage. However, this passive approach probably doesn't deal enough damage. Carax can put monoliths on high ground. Aside from going nuclear, environmental mutators can't take them out. In contrast, Swan's towers attacking from the high ground don't deal enough damage. This one I'm not so sure. I think Imbatol has to evade attacks. Void Arrays can deal with double-edged. The damage curve grows relatively fast. I'm not sure what this means. This could also refer to Alarak and his destroyers. I don't quite understand using toxic nests on trains. After all, the nests can only damage one cart. The problem with Stetman on long maps for Wheel of Misfortune is that his Statolites can easily get eaten by props and then he loses. There are some good reasons to use Zagara on this map. Without Double Edge, Bio-Launchers plus the hero unit can blast almost everything. With Double Edge, roll over everything with Ling Bane. For many maps, when there's Chaos Studios, you can wait until the hated mutators disappear and then go, but on OE, you have to force your way through. When you consider the fact that OE is a map with a fixed time, you can say that you're in prison right from the start. If you get unfavorable mutators, you gotta just pray. Also, Stukov P1 tanks can take out double-edged trains that don't have damage reduction. The prerequisite is that you only make tanks, so the enemy comp is important. Otherwise, you'll have to rely on your ally. My Stukov P1 tanks on OE are generally on the low ground poking. If they're all on the high ground, once they blast all the enemies, they just sit there and wait for the ally to clean up. In the past, I saw a Stukov use Banshees against double-edged trains. They can do that with super fast HP regen, the Banshees. A steering wheel goes underground and then after a few seconds, a full HP Banshee flies out. I suspect that Stukov stole Abathur and Stetman's technology for his Banshees to use. That's why it has to be a pure ground comp without any damage reduction mutators. Otherwise, there won't be enough DPS and you'll be really busy. However, in the few times I beat this, my ally quit in the beginning, so I had twice the income in the early game. One factory constantly producing tanks was enough. The biggest problem with double-edged isn't the trains, but the huge number of escorts next to them. It's okay if the enemy comp is pure ground, but if there are any air enemies, with Kerrigan's anti-air capabilities, you will suffer. Then I bet one of the reasons is the economy. Another is that the ally can make the expo so you save on supply. So that explains why I choose Kerrigan against random mutators. I'm just saying what advantages there are when you're forced to pick one. My understanding is that the problem of double-edged trains is still quite large. It's just that with escorts, the problem is even larger. With attack waves, you can at least try slowly chipping away at them with Lings. You can also play Deadly Explosion and switch AoE 1 with N. I don't know what this means. A bigger top bar is still AoE. Don't know what this means. If you can't destroy a train in 3 minutes, it's gone. Without evasion and damage reduction, subtract 1 minute to deal with the escorts. That means you have at most 2 minutes to deal 15 to 20k damage. If you also consider the attack waves coming 2 minutes after a train spawns, you actually only have 1 to 1.5 minutes, including cases where you can subtract half a minute from the escorts. This averages out to about 250 to 333 damage per second that you need to do. And each unit recovers 10 HP per second. There aren't that many elite units that have high mutator resistance. Aside from Zagara's and Stukov's units, regular units don't have much mutator resistance, and most AoE only damages one cart. Wheel of Misfortune itself is a comprehensive test against the majority of mutators. On the high end, it's B plus 5. On the low, it's B plus 1. The average is B plus 3 to 4. You need to be familiar with the mutators as well as be able to adapt on the fly. On OE, there are actually 4 or 5 mutators that have a significant impact: Diffusion, Double Edge, Just Die, Polarity, and Props. The others are okay as long as there aren't any crazy combos. Crazy as in Hardened Will, Transmutation, Alien Incubation, or Diffusion, Short-Sighted, Life Leech. Now that I think about it, Stetman doesn't have to really worry about props for this Wheel of Misfortune. You just need to spend money to make Mecha Banelings and remove your F2 key. Stetman's units are reliable. You just need to play P2 Super Gary like usual and you'll do 90% of the work. You pretty much don't need any units aside from Lings. Hardened Will, Transmutation, Alien Incubation isn't that hard. P3 Stukov, Flaming Betties, Flame Troopers, Blue Gun Troopers, Han Horner Reapers, Rainer Bile, Tychus, Flame Spread, Stetman, Zagara, Pure Lings, P2 Carax, Carrier Sentinel. I don't know if this is a joke because these are not good against transmutation, but okay. Most army comps that you usually see can be used. Even Artanis, who often has to regroup his forces, can make Zealot High Templar to deal with this. In fact, commanders like Zeratul and Vorzun, who have high damage per hit, are weak to this combo. It's not actually embarrassing to lose to a multiple mutator combo. You most likely won't encounter the exact same thing if you try again. Just don't get beaten by a single mutator. This time, the most problematic mutator is double-edged, so I mentioned it specifically. The majority can be beaten with raw stats. And that's it for this post. What advice do you have for this mutation? Comment it down below and I'll see you next time.